The Bully Boyz. Yeah. So now you move on to everyone's beloved, Bully Boyz. I see you mostly get ghostly right there. Someone in the chat. You guys are already going right now too. The Bully Boyz are beloved right now, right? They're typically either the second most popular played orc detachment or the third. For the most of the time, though, they're the second most played. So I'm going to tell you some cunning tactics and some flexible options. What I will say is, when I came to this understanding, it was prior to the Necrons appearing. So I'm a little back and forth on how I feel about Bully Boyz as a whole. Nonetheless, play what you enjoy and you have fun with. Because if you go out and you win the majority of your games, 9 out of 10 games, and you lost one because one person ended up having all the right tools for your style of list, so what? That's 40K, right? So trust me, don't be deterred just because you hypothetically think things can go bad. Make them go your way as an orc. And that's what Bully Boyz really try to do. So let's talk about that. Right off the bat, I'll say cunning taxes are the teleporter. So having being the ability to deep strike mega knobs is huge. Now, people sometimes underestimate it and they go, I'm already gonna have board control and just walk up the field with my trucks. I don't care about that wall tactics. I just want to get stuck in. Now I get you. So do I. So do I. Right. Bear with me though. The reason I really appreciate it is because it sets up cunning plays. The fact that you can deep strike them into a position so that you can then heroically intervene and act as a defensive posture or countermeasure to the opposition is why the teleporter is more interesting. I also like it because it's our most reliable form of QRF, quick response force, to where when you're trying to set the momentum up, teleporter, ingress these guys in, keep going that side of the field. So I appreciate the teleporter a lot. It's pretty much the only enhancement that I use when I'm playing Bully Boyz. Then we go into the Zod mob. I'm a big fan of the Zod mob because I think, one, you're really low on OC typically on Bully Boyz, but two, you're freaking slow. And that first Waaagh, a lot of the time you need to make contact with something, and it's very hard to have enough tools that can make a contact with enough stuff for it to be worth it. So whether it's a big trike unit that people want to do, I want to use a trike and auto advance 6 and then get the bikers in there and fight. Well, you can't even shoot your guns, right? And then that big old stupid profile might only be able to tag one enemy unit because the bikers are kind of unruly to move and they can't go through terrain as much and such. Then you're like, well, what about commandos? Well, commandos can get into the fight, but ultimately they're just boy bodies, right? So are they worth an entire Waaagh? Well, they can be if you have Zod alongside them, right? Because they can tar pit, they can move block the enemy, they can put their little dumb grot bodies in firing lanes, they can slow down the enemy problematic unit. Once they do that, then the secondary wave of whatever you want to be using that's actually crippling or backbaking moves into position. So I'm a big fan of the Zod mob because I'm a big fan of the teleporter, and the teleporter finds its way when Zod creates a bunch of that space. Of course, we have Snickrot because he's scoring, and then of course because he's going to act as a big lone op kind of baity or defensive measure as well, whether it's to kind of slow down the enemy's ability to shoot you away, or because he's just acting as a, well, I'm going to run up the field and jump over there and score for you secondaries. Pretty straightforward there. But this is something we've talked about. You can look back on videos up to a year ago when I talked about Bully Boyz list, and I kept telling you guys, I'm down with Meganobs without a leader. Now, how many units you can bring without a leader is dependent, and that's what's room for, understanding when we go into the meta and start experimenting here and innovate, right? But I promise you, when you're making your Bully Boyz list, trust me and at least make one unit that doesn't have a leader. Because the fact of the matter is, the Mega Knobs are the only thing that are going to have access to strats that are worth anything other than you can re-roll hits with a 10-man unit of knobs. So the Armor of Contempt style strat, Fight on Death style strat could be used as for them to be a more interesting way. And Mega Knobs just function and don't feel bad when they don't actually have to pay for a character that really doesn't commit that much sometimes. So let the Mega Knobs be without their character. I'm a big fan of that right now. As for how many you get away with, that's really determinant. We'll wait to see. But then we have War Boss and Mega Armor. So if I am to bring one character, I'm typically bringing him. The damage 3, the +1 to hit, that's where it's at. And a lot of the time, he just survives for so long. You can also maybe consider him for Big Gob. It's kind of fun when he can start yelling at people, making them take battle shocks. Then we go to the flex option. So we have Gas. Again, are we thinking Gas for the damage sake? Uh, because he's the damage 4 and he's a lethal aura, and you're like, I can re-roll for it. There's a lot of big tough things going around. We keep going back and forth on Bully Boys whether we need Gas or not. Me personally, I find myself dropping Gas because I want more stuff. And then when it comes to actually, banging it out with the enemy in game, there are times where I just feel like, dang, I ran out of killing momentum. If I had Gas aura there, I could have pushed through on the enemy. And then on another sense, he could not be on the list and just bring a bunch of stuff, right? Where I just have more units for the waves of wall that I'm going in, because I might not kill you, but I can keep making contact with you and keep playing the game at my tempo. So that's why he's a flex option and not at the cunning tactics side of the table. Even though I understand, I appreciate both sides. Then we have Mandos again, commandos. I think that you really do, because you have Zod need commandos, so he was almost a cunning tactic. Then again, 120 points, I can find out why people wouldn't bring him. My personal opinion is definitely bring the Mandos, split them apart, let them act as scoring, securing space in no man's land. Right. So I would even almost shift these guys over to cunning side, but it's all good. Then we move into the return of the 10 knobs. So we did see a lot of the time where people starting to drop knobs. They were like, I don't want to bring them anymore. They don't really have an ideal place of target things to hit anymore. Well, if you're going to bring Gas, there's a chance you're going to bring 10 knobs, because the 10 knobs are the only thing that have enough value with the reroll hit strat to make Gas's lethal aura actually feel worth it. And a lot of the time, because people are going to have other stacking defensive abilities, you're going to want the lethal and the amount of punches for Gas, if I'm from the knobs, to make it feel worth it. So I think there's a good place for 10 knobs to return into your Bully Boys list with or without Gas. So even if you don't bring Gas, I can still see him being useful, because Fight on Death becomes more interesting and reroll hit becomes more interesting. Plus, you really just need it for that one time, because they're typically going to die after that. The Blitzer Wagon's a huge flex, in my opinion. There are times where people are just like, bring 3 trucks, which I'm kind of a little bit more one of those guys. But there are people that are saying, bring 2 wagons, bring 1 wagon and trucks, and then incorporate multiple units, maybe a Break a Boy, maybe a Knob unit, maybe a 10-man unit of Snagger Boys, and then also different characters inside of there. There is also a weird ability where people sometimes use a Blitzer wagon for a knob and 10 and Gas and 10 knobs. Personally, I haven't tried that, but I have seen people lean into that, and it is pretty outstanding. Uh, Last but not least, we have the Big Mac and Mega Armor with Custom Force Field. Not loving him because, man, the damage output at shooting right now can be devastating. I don't want to lean on a 4-up info, and even if I have a find up feel no pain on that, right? A Vindicator does not respect that. Plenty of other Space Marine weapons don't respect that, but nonetheless, the ability to grow back Mega Knobs can feel pretty sick. Putting a guy out to bait some shots off, they kill him, you peel him back off, and the enemy kind of wastes their shooting phase. I understand that. That is appealing as well. And if you're crazy, get taking the devastating custom shooters and re-rolling the hits on them with your Big Mac so that you could try to fish for more hits and then get more devastating shots is hilarious. Don't recommend it competitively, but I understand the humor that you're trying to achieve there. Last but not least, the War Boss plus 10 man boys units. So if you're playing on more dense tables, or you just like to play with more stuff and you drop Yaz, I absolutely think a War Boss plus 10 boys going into trucks, good old fashioned from around the Index Hammer time, has some good legs underneath it and will go a long way. So while Zod's getting up the field and getting punches off and Mando's getting fights in, the War Boss might be able to get some charges off with 10 boys, or stage up and prepare for the next turn and just kind of saturate the field with more stuff. So I'm a big fan of using that with 10 boys and a War Boss. Of course, I didn't put it on here, but there is a chance you could be a crazy person to run Snaggas in this as well for Gas and fish for the rerolls. When it's not a 5+, it's not as reliable, not as appealing necessarily, but I think it's still a decent way to think. Now let's look at the Bully Boys list. So personally, I do have Gas on it because I like Gas myself for fun, but I think if I had to run out more Bully Boys lists, there could be a good chance that I drop him just for more stuff. That is a little bit yet to be seen, um, because honestly, the results we're seeing with Bully Boys are both. So I really think it's up to the pilot and him having awareness of his meta and maybe even the mission pack. whether that's working or not. So take that at your own discretion. But right now for this list, I do have them because it fit nicely into the points I wanted to show. So we have a boss Sinicrot again, Gazgul Thraka, of course, a war boss, then a war boss in mega armor with the teleport, and then a Zagrot war snagger. So why I did this was twofold. I wanted to still appeal to the people that like to bring a lot of characters to have all the missile launchers buffs, but I also wanted to show that I didn't go overboard and give every single unit a character. And I stuck to the idea of not as many mega knobs with characters. So you can even peel off more characters from this if you wanted to. I kept it at least around 500 points, I think 500 and a little, maybe a little more. So I made a list without Mgaz too, but this list kind of felt good when I rolled it all up. So 20 boys. Then we have triple trucks in this case. Didn't go for the battle wagon. Zod's big Gretchen unit plus 2 more Gretchen unit. It ended up just working out really nicely for points, but I also just wanted more grots, more stuff, right? When I did swap, I think it was Gaz for was it Gaz? I think it was Gaz for the snobs, one or the other, for 10 boys and 10 snaggas, then that is an also option with this list. So if you want to tweak this just a little bit for more stuff, easy thing I did was incorporate 10 boys and 10 snaggas as well. So then we have a 10-man commando unit followed by 3 mega knobs. I would have these all with twin kill saws, in my opinion, because none of these are going with Gaz. Gaz is getting the 20 boys on his side, and he's calling it a day there. Then we have the 10-man unit of knobs, and they'll get the war boss in that case, and a storm boy. So this is straight up Bully Boyz-esque, right? Everything here is coming to crump, knock someone's teeth out, hit them as hard as possible, and Bully Boys take advantage of this double Waaagh and have access to some of the strats and have a little bit of redundancy here. So mobility in the trucks, not didn't pay for the mega knob, the battle wagon, excuse me, but you can definitely fiddle this around a little bit and put some blitzer wagon style of staging units in here where you can put them inside of the battle wagon and use it as a launching platform. I think that's totally fine too. But like I said, I wanted to stack the knobs volume of punches with Makari lethal aura in that case, and then I have the mega knobs to come out turn 1, the first Waaagh without a leader, and then again with the second Waaagh, one of them has the mega knob, so he's +1 to hit, and then the other one can use the reroll hit strat, right? So I have things that I can use for strats on the first Waaagh from the first mega knob unit that's not having a character, and then the following one they come out as well. So one of these mega knobs is getting ingress from the teleporter, and then the other ones are coming in from trucks, right? So trucks, they go inside of there, boom, jump out, get stuck in. And so rinse and repeat. Then 1 unit of Storm Boys. So honestly, I had fun putting this together with how kind of tough this list kind of felt, but then the Catan stuff got leaked out and everything as well. So I'm cool with people who decide they just want more stuff. Nonetheless, this is the Bully Boys list, 1995 points. Tweak it if you wish, but we'll see where Bully Boys end up at the end of all of this. Shout out to our sponsors, the Baron of Dice, as they helped us do our wall tactic dice. So shout them out. Check them out in the description, 5% off in the discount because nobody likes taxes. And shout out to Baron of Dice. They allow us to do our paint competition. So thank you very much to them. If you enjoyed the clip, check out the full video here. If you'd like to see more tactics, click here.
Let's get stuck in, lads!